Okay, so the last one that I'm going to go through with you is this one that deals with a lot of fractions. And that's why I'm going to do it, because I know how most of us feel about fractions. So I'm going to work through this one with you, and then the last two are just a couple of for fun problems. All right, so what we're asked to do here is we're asked to look at 3 different ways that we could use the information given in the table to compute for 3 servings. Right? So, lots of times you look at a recipe, you want to make a certain number of servings, and that number of servings is not on the package. All right? So we're going to look at 3 different ways that we could get to 3 based on what's given. All right? And the first way we're going to look at is by taking 1 serving and multiplying by 3, right? Because logically that should get us to 3 servings. So what I'm going to do first is just multiply, right, the amount for 1 serving by 3. All right, so if I do that first, right, the water or milk is the first thing I'm going to do. All right, it's 1 cup for 1 serving. Multiply that by 3, and I would need 3 cups of milk. Then I'm going to do the salt. Same thing there, 1/8 of a teaspoon, multiply by 3. I would need 3/8 of a teaspoon. And then lastly, the amount of cream of wheat. For 1 serving, it's 3 tablespoons. I'm going to multiply that by 3, and I would need 9 tablespoons for 3 servings. So that's probably the easiest way to go from 1 serving to 3, and that's most commonly what I would do, if I were going from 1 to 3. But it's not the only way, and so we're going to look at 2 other options and see if we come out with the same thing or if we have any changes. All right, so another way to get 3 is to average 2 and 4. All right, and that's what we're going to do in the second part here. All right, so now we're going to take what happens for 2 servings. We're going to add what happens for 4 servings. And then the way that you average, right, you take the sum and you divide by 2. All right, so let's start with the amount of milk. All right, so I need to add first. So I've got 2 cups plus 3 and 3/4. All right, that's going to tell me that I need 5 and 3/4 if I put those 2 things together. All right, but remember, we're trying to average. So we now need to take that and divide it by 2. Now, when you're dealing with fractions, the only way you can multiply or divide is if you take this mixed number and convert it to an improper fraction. So if you have not seen that before, or if it's been a while, take the denominator, multiply it by the whole number, and add the top. That becomes 23/4. And the way I divide by 2 is I multiply by its reciprocal, or 1/2. So this becomes 23/8, all right, meaning the amount of milk or water would be 23/8 cups, all right, or to make that a little more logical, 8 goes into 23, 2 times? That gives me 16 with 7 left over. So that's the same thing as 2 7/8 of a cup. Now notice that's close to what we got, all right, in the first example, all right, we got 3 cups there. This is just a little bit less than that. All right, so now let's see what happens for the salt if we do the same thing. All right, so I'm going to add them together first, 1/4 plus 1/2. Going to need a common denominator to add fractions. So I'm going to write 1/2 as 2/4. and that gives me 3/4. All right, but if I'm averaging, I got to divide that by 2, and I do that multiplying by 1/2, which gets me to 3/8. All right, so notice the amount of salt that I get by averaging 3/8 of a teaspoon is exactly the same as what I got in part A when I multiplied 1 serving by 3. Okay, so a slight change in the milk, but not in the salt. So now let's do the amount of cream of wheat the same way. All right, so I'm going to take 1/2 plus 3/4. All right, get a common denominator, right? 1/2 is 2/4. That's going to give me 5/4. And then to average, I've got to divide that by 2, right? Or multiply by 1/2. And that's going to give me 5/8 of a cup. All right, now notice you can't really do a direct comparison here because in part A we were in tablespoons. But if you wanted to, you could convert so that you can compare by using the conversion factor that's given here. So like if you wanted to convert the cups to tablespoons, you could do that just multiplying by 16 tablespoons in a cup. So 5 times 16 divided by 8 tells you this would be 10 tablespoons. And again, a slight difference from what we got in part A. We got 9 tablespoons. When we took 1 serving multiplied by 3, we're getting 10 tablespoons when we average 2 and 4. All right, and then we're asked to do this one other way, and that is the last way that we could get 3 servings is 4 minus 1. So subtract the amount for 1 serving from the amount for 4. So milk first, right? 1 serving is 1 cup. And 4 servings is 3 3/4 of a cup. So if we take the difference, do the bigger one first. That tells me I'd need 2 3/4 of a cup. So notice again, we're not getting the same thing, right? Multiplying 1 serving by 3, we got 3 cups. Averaging 2 and 4 servings, we got almost 3 cups, 2 7/8. And then taking the difference between 4 and 1 serving, again, we're close, but not exactly the same at 2 3/4 of a cup. All right, so let's see what happens with the salt. For 4 servings, we've got 1/2 teaspoon. For 1 serving, we have 1/8 of a teaspoon. Going to need a common denominator, so write 1/2 as 4/8. And notice we're getting the same amount of salt, no matter how we do it, 3 teaspoons. All right, so finishing this out, the cream of wheat. For 4 servings, it's 3/4 of a cup. I'm going to subtract for 1 serving, but notice I'm in different units here. All right, so really I'm taking 3/4 of a cup and I'm subtracting 3 tablespoons. All right, I can't subtract those right now because they're different units. So what I'm going to do, kind of like what I did in the previous one, is I'm going to convert cups to tablespoons. And I can do that if I multiply this by 16 tablespoons. So 3 times 16 divided by 4, 3/4 of a cup is 12 tablespoons. And if I subtract the 3 for 1 serving, then I get 9 tablespoons. So notice that came out the same for part A and C, but it was slightly different when we took the average for 2 and 4. All right, so this is one of those cases, again, there's different ways that you can work. And most of the time, they're going to get you to the same place. All right, this is a case where that didn't exactly happen. So I want you to think about mathematically why the 3 different methods that we used there might have come out a little bit differently. All right, and the hint is you're going to look at the relationship between them here. And again, you want to think mathematically about why you might be seeing a little bit of difference depending on how it's calculated when you look at 3 servings. All right, so you can check that when you check the posted solutions, as well as any of the other examples in the notes for section 1.3.